All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Equipped, Bruised, Tired podcast. I am one of your hosts, Bryce Krawczyk, and I'm here with my good friend Ryan Stin. And yeah, how's things going there, Ryan?
Good. Yeah, life continues here in segregation. I don't know what this is. It's opening up a little bit here. We're hoping to get our gym open this weekend, but we're working tirelessly through trying to get insurance.
Mm-hmm.
Our first insurance, the company we were with before, basically was unable to get us insurance for adding on a gym to a online retail store, which I guess makes sense in some ways.
Yeah.
Um, so we went to a new company and they're working through it, but it's taking a little longer than we hoped. So we're going to delay the reopening a little bit, but yeah, everything's pretty quiet here. So we're hoping to get going again, but
Nice.
kind of got to wait till insurance. It'd be a shame to do something now and then not have it in place and have something happen. So
Yeah. So you guys are adding the new training facility onto the warehouse for inner strength?
yeah, so like
Okay.
the building Inner Strength is housed in had like another 1,800 square feet or so.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so we just kind of basically absorbed that space
Nice.
and renovated it into a gym space, and then since like unparalleled is our gym,
Mm-hmm.
but unparalleled really isn't. I shouldn't say it is and was a corporation, but
Mm-hmm.
only in name at this point.
Right.
So it's just easier to run everything through the businesses, um, and then so yeah, we'll just run it through Inner Strength and do that. But definitely to get insurance, so don't want to lose Inner Strength because someone gets hurt in the gym or something.
Yeah. Is it going to be the inner strength gym then?
I think we'll still call ourselves unparalleled.
Okay.
Just that's what we've always been. Even when we were in Red Goat, we still referred to ourselves as unparalleled. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's kind of the plan at least.
Cool.
How's your new block? Your high volume life?
Starting to acclimate a little bit. Although I'm just like I've been kind of unmotivated, I guess would be a good word. Like sometimes you really want to go train.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just not really feeling that lately, which is fine. Like I think that's just one of those phases you go through, and
For sure.
seeing the cancellation of all of the meets except for open worlds, I'm just like, really? We're gonna we're gonna keep hoping, okay? And I
Well, we
think I
shouldn't
have a
say cancellation. Just Canada won't be sending teams.
right. Okay, yeah. Sorry, I misspoke there.
Although this should be. I mean, at this point, I feel like cancellation should be inevitable, especially for some of them.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Um, but yeah, especially like seeing that, I'm just like, what am I training for? Like, why am I doing this again?
Yeah.
But I think it's very much just like it's he's just going through a phase kind of thing. So I'm not like I'm not gonna
It's this emo phase.
hang up the squat suit or anything like that. I mean, it has been hanging since Worlds, but you know what I
Yeah.
mean. Not throwing in the towel or anything, but just like yeah, just kind of going through the motions, which I think is fine. I think a lot of people are really terrified of like being in that place, but I think if you do this for any period of time, you're gonna end up doing some training from that place, and you just keep doing the training, and things come back around, and you get excited again because powerlifting is your life, and yeah.
Yeah. I think it's yeah. Anytime you've been I assume any sport. I don't know. I've
Mm-hmm.
only been in powerlifting really, but like I want to say all the way through my training for nationals, it was basically zero motivation for it. Um, and it just you kind of do it because that's what you do.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's not something you want to be doing that forever like that. But sometimes that's just how it is, right? Other priorities, other things are on your mind. I'm the
Yeah.
kind of person that just gets so singularly obsessed with something that
Yeah.
everything else kind of falls away. So when I get obsessed with whatever it might be, photography, right now, espresso of all things,
Right.
it's just becomes like my singular focus, and everything else is kind of just background noise.
Yeah.
So life that kind of comes and goes, and I think I've always had times where training it's going, but it's not my priority. And me and Ray were just talking about this yesterday, actually, in that there's some people that compete and then take 2 months off, like just disappear from a gym for 2 months
Yeah.
versus, we've always been like, well, we're in the gym and we're getting stuff done, and you know, that's good. But the question that I kind of bounced around my head was, are you better off to take those 2 months off, fully recover, heal, whatever, live your life, and then come back like really hungry for it and train with like passion and purpose, versus slogging through those 2 months of, you know, depression-based training? And it's just, I don't have an answer for it. I don't know if there's ever been any kind of studies around something like this, but
Yeah.
like, you don't lose that much. Realistically, you take 2 months off, you know, you're going to lose a little bit, but you're not going to lose a ton. And
Yeah.
are you better off to have that really hungry mentality? Because I mean, definitely when you're hungry for it and you're pushing a little harder, every set's a little bit more important. You're going to get bigger in gains than, I would say, than, you know, going through the motions sort of thing. I don't know, just something that kind of bounced and we had a chat about yesterday.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty interesting perspective. But I think, that like the big thing is, for me right now, the fact that I'm in like a volume block, and it's basically just like I'm just like putting check marks in my training log. You know what I mean? It's like this was an RPE between 7 and 8.5. And this was set 1, set 2, set 7, set 8. Like, you know what I mean? It's just kind of one of those things. So for me right now,
Set
I'll
8?
I'll like listen to some podcasts or listen to some of one of the books that I'm reading or listening to, I guess. And it allows me to just like kind of, I don't know if distract myself while training is the right thing, or the right like way to put it, but it does seem to make those sessions a little more bearable. And the fact that it's nothing crazy heavy that I really need to stay mentally focused and sharp for is like, okay, you know, we'll go there, we'll do it, and then we're done, and then we'll move on. And yeah, so I think for me, it's probably the most productive way I could be approaching it right now.
Right.
And yeah, I don't know. It's the whole like motivation versus habit type thing is a pretty interesting topic to delve into, and I think both kind of have their place.
Yeah, for sure. That said, I'm super excited about my single leg RDL work right now.
Okay.
70 kilos for sets of 12
Nice.
will ruin your day.
Yeah.
And the next day probably as well. No, definitely the next day too. But I really want to get to 100 kilos for a set of 12. And I don't know if it's possible for me in this block, but that's my goal.
I believe in you.
I don't know if I believe in my glutes. they really felt 70 kilos.
Yeah. I mean, that's a very interesting movement to try to be pulling off. I think I've done those like a couple of times as part of like some rehab thing I was trying to do for my hip at some point. And yeah, you're just like, you're hurting for like 3 days afterwards.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm still feeling them a little bit.
Deep agreement there.
Yeah.
Do we have any questions or anything this week?
No, I don't think we had any questions this week. So we're very lonely. Feel free to send us questions at equippedbruisetired@gmail.com.
We're lonely and we're both doing, or I'm doing depression-based training.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Go ahead and send us in some questions or well wishes.
Sure, yeah.
You know, anything like that.
Any encouragement to keep us going. Tell me what your 1RM is on single leg RDLs so I can have a competition. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, yeah, if nothing else, then I'll just toss us into the interview.
Yeah.
So our interview today was with Ellie Steel, who's a lifter from British Powerlifting. And one of the things that I found really impressive about Ellie was the sheer number of competitions under her belt. She's reached close to or over, in some cases, the world record numbers in the 57 kilo category, and is actually the highest ranked female equipped lifter in British Powerlifting, the IPF affiliate. We got into some interesting competitions about why she competes so often and maybe some of the merits of, especially as a more novice lifter, doing a lot of competitions, and kind of touched on maybe the finite nature of competing at the top level and why that motivates her to do so many competitions, even, you know, where she is now. So, you know, in the context of all competitions being canceled for the foreseeable future, or for, you know, things being postponed at the very least, I think it was a pretty interesting conversation that, you know, I certainly have taken some points from and have some things to think about as a result of it. So, yeah, we hope that everybody enjoys making their way through it. And without further ado, we hope you enjoy our interview with Ellie Steel. Yes. So first off, thank you very, very much for agreeing to spend some time with us today and talk lifting and equipped lifting and probably a couple other things. So thanks for coming on the podcast today, Ellie.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So as with most of these things, I think we'll probably start off with kind of your journey to this point and talk a little bit about you as a lifter. So can you give us just sort of a brief, maybe a bit of a resume and sort of how you got into the sports, and we can kind of explore that a little bit.
Yeah, sure. So I started my sporting life as a highboard diver.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that. I started when I was 8 years old. So I was sort of thrown right into training, conditioning, trampoline work, gymnastics from about that age. And then I was on the World Class Start program, which is a program of it goes World Class Start, Junior Olympic team, and then Olympic team. So I started on that. And then when I was 15 years old, I had a diving accident, which meant that I literally stopped pretty much overnight. I tried to do one more competition after the accident, and I couldn't. So after that, the accident was going inwards. So when you're facing away from the board and you jump backwards and spin. So
like a gainer? Is that a gainer?
Oh,
Is that that's probably not the correct term, but
well, yeah, maybe I was doing a gainer, and I lost where I was in a somersault from 10 meters, and I came out and landed flat on my back. I was rushed to hospital, and it was quite traumatic. It was the only time my mum and dad had come to watch me train together, and I did it on that day. So I spent a little time in hospital after that. And then I stopped everything altogether. And then I went to university, and since then I was always trying to find a sport that I could get to a similar level in. So I tried judo, rugby, CrossFit. And then I did an amateur strongwoman competition just for fun at the gym, and I liked it, but being only 5 feet tall, I couldn't load anything onto any sort of platform. Right. So somebody said, have you thought about powerlifting? So and then it was really good luck actually, because I came across my coach still today, a guy called Dean Bowring. Okay. I came across him at a gym, and he put me in contact with a coach near where I lived at the time. It's a place called Birmingham. His name's Aaron Singh, and I started training with him, and then literally made the British team within the first year, and I've never looked back really. But yeah, I've always tried to find a sport that I could compete at the same sort of level.
Mm-hmm. So you've always been pretty competitive. Hey, was that something that you kind of learned early on, or is that just kind of your nature?
I think it's probably my nature. But yeah, whatever I've ever wanted to do, I've wanted to put 100% into it. So yeah, I think it's probably inbuilt. If we go on holiday and me and my sister have done something called swimming pool Olympics, and it gets quite competitive, and then a week later we're still trying to beat each other at something.
So it's funny you mentioned your sister, because I actually, one of the things that I do to prepare for these is that I deep dive people's Instagrams and take a look through all of the stuff, and I saw you boxing your sister.
Oh yes. Oh yeah.
How did that come around? Was that just another one of those family challenge kind of things, or?
Yeah, like Sunday lunch over the road, she said, I think I could beat you in a fight. I said, I don't think you can. And then so the next day we went down to the gym, and it was a boxing gym, and we put gloves on, and we thought, well, let's see who wins.
Who do you feel like won that? Who came out victorious?
Me, definitely.
Definitely. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, I think there was at one point where I was like windmilling, and I
Yeah.
think at that point I had the edge, and yeah, I don't think she's ever recovered fully since.
I mean, as for Bart Simpson, that's a valid strategy, the windmill, I think.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, similar.
Exactly.
So let me be the
Yeah.
first to say that like high board diving sounds terrifying. I can't even imagine. I have a vague memory of it as a child of climbing off of the high board at the pool because I wouldn't jump off of it.
The other way. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Coming
Yeah,
down the back.
yeah. I don't know if it's real or if it's just like this reoccurring nightmare I have. The injury, does it? I assume it's something in the neck or back. Yeah. Do you
Yeah,
still have
lower
lingering effects for that?
No. I think actually one of the most surprising things from the injury was straight afterwards I had the full imprint of the swimming costume on my back. Because it really is like hitting concrete from 10 meters if it goes wrong. But touch wood, no, absolutely. I had hip displacement at the time, but then obviously quite a few years off probably fixed itself. And ever since then, no lasting physical injuries, but still a reoccurring nightmare actually.
I bet.
Which is even so. I finished 13 years ago, and I still wake up in the night, and I've landed wrong in a somersault again. So it's definitely something that's affected me, but it gave me all that core strength, its explosive power, and its core strength. So it transferred quite nicely.
Yeah. And I assume a lot of like body awareness and like that sort of thing, positional awareness. Do you think that carries over into powerlifting a lot?
Yeah, I think so. Part of the accident. So after I did it, I had a competition in Barcelona about maybe 2 or 3 months afterwards, and I flew over, and the very first dive I did, I lost my place in somersault again, and then the weirdest thing happened. For about the next 6 months, I lost my spatial awareness. And I don't know of anybody else that's lost that, but I couldn't judge distances for quite a long time afterwards. But in terms of powerlifting, it's definitely the core strength, explosive strength, and with all the sports, it's like the ability to be just really aware of yourself and feeling like physically, like in rugby, for example, just knowing that you can hold yourself and you've got just kind of made you a well-rounded athlete. I think that's what diving did for me.
Right.
So in terms of that sort of initial exposure to lifting, obviously you mentioned Dean, and he's a well-known and very successful equipped lifter there in the UK. Was your introduction to powerlifting initially equipped, or did you train raw for a while and then get into it? What did that sort of progression look like from you going in and starting to work with your coach near Birmingham?
So I mean, the nice thing for him was I was a completely blank canvas. So right from the start, I'd never tried powerlifting, so there was no bad habits. I hadn't even attempted it myself in the gym.
Right.
So for him, I was complete clean slate. And I knew about equipped powerlifting because I knew of some of Aaron always used to talk about Clive Henry. I don't know if that name rings a bell. Some of the powerlifters, and all he ever knew competitions before me was equipped powerlifting. So I knew about it, but we didn't train in any kit probably for a good 6 to 8 months. But it never felt like something I was introduced to. It was just something that was just going to happen once I got stronger and once my technique got better. Then I was then just put in a bench shirt, put in a squat suit. So it was never like, I've obviously listened to some of the podcasts before. There was never like a big, "Ooh, shall I try it?" It was just something that I was going to do because Aaron had only ever coached equipped powerlifters. So it was never daunting for me. It was just something that I was going to naturally progress onto because you know it's
that's how it
great
goes.
to do. Yeah.
So just to Bryce, you know who Aaron is, but I don't think you know who Aaron is. He's the he was the head coach for, I think maybe, is he still the head coach, Ellie, for the equip team?
Dean is
Dean
now.
is now.
So
Yeah.
I've been lucky.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Aaron was the head coach for years. I'm sure you met Aaron in both Dubai and in Czech. So
Yeah,
he's always
yes,
walking around with a
indeed.
cup of tea. So and a kettle usually.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, there's a little plug socket in the corner of the room, and there's his little tea station.
Yeah.
Do you remember your first couple of times or your first time in equipment and what that was like for you? Was it a big sort of eye-opening experience, or were you pretty well mentally prepared and you were like, yep, this is about what it should be kind of thing?
Yeah, my stuff wasn't tight, so my stuff was actually Phil Richards' old stuff. So I put his things on, and it just felt like it was helping me a little bit, but I wasn't shocked by anything. I just thought, oh, this is good. I've added an extra 10 kilos to my bench. I've added, 15 kilos to my squat or whatever. And I thought, but I do remember the first competition because I was struggling to make weight. And my mum suggested that I eat prunes and dates the night before. You shouldn't take nutrition advice from your mum. But I was like, okay, yeah, good idea. And so I ate a load of prunes and dates, and then you're in the soup. So
make of that what you will.
Definitely not taking advice from your mom, because apparently that's not the way to go.
No, don't do that. But it was nothing daunting. It's always been good. It's always good fun.
That's awesome to hear.
So in kind of going back through your competition history, you compete very frequently. So I think you average 7 or 8 meets a year for the last 6 years or so. Do you just really like competing, or do you find it really helps you to stay tuned in to the platform?
I think there was actually one time where I did 3 competitions in 3 weekends, and 2 of those were internationals, because I went straight from Barcelona to
that would have been the Arnold there.
Yeah, to the Western European Cup, or the other way around, and the British was the weekend before, and I lifted well all 3 times. But I think for me, it's just not knowing when it will end. So I'm trying to do absolutely everything I can. I think because the diving was such a abrupt ending, and that was years of training to just not come to anything. Actually, I did my university dissertation on the effects of elite level retirement for athletes, and just how it affects you mentally. So I think for me, I do love competing, but it's mainly that I could be injured next year. So let's try and do everything I can. And whilst it works, I'll keep doing it, I think. Yeah.
And so is that something that... so you coach some lifters too, right?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. So is that a strategy that you try to employ with your lifters to get a lot of that competition experience stacked up early on, so that you can kind of,
Definitely, yeah. I as soon as I think they're ready, I think I try and get them into as many as they can, because what annoys me is mistakes like missing the press command a year and a half, 2 years in. That shouldn't be happening. Like, get into those good competition habits right from the start, right from when they're ready, and also it just builds up that if you do 6 or 7 a year, you're nowhere near as nervous, and you think, oh well, I did well at the last one, so there's not so much riding on it.
Right.
So I think for me, mentally, it's like, oh well, it's just another competition. So I try not to put too much of my soul into it, because there's plenty more to come.
Right. And if something does go wrong, well, heck, you got one next weekend, so you can make up for it, right?
Exactly. Yeah. No one will even care about this one next week.
That's cool. I mean, that kind of runs counter to a lot of people's sort of outlook on things, and especially when you start talking about equipped lifting. How do you find that influences or impacts your training? Do you find that's disruptive, or you find you've pretty much come up with a good system to help you train while competing, and you just kind of stay peaked always?
Yeah, I never train to peak. I don't
Mhm.
think maybe I do. Maybe Dean is doing that, but I'm not aware of it. I'm
Right.
always in a position ready to compete. So if you said tomorrow, Ellie, get your tiny squat suit on and let's go all out, I'd be like, that's good because I feel ready because I feel ready all year round. So
Right.
and mentally that's good for me as well. With my training, I don't train in a suit. I put it on 2 weeks before. That's it.
Okay. That was my next question. So.
Yeah. So I my technique's the same, raw and equipped. So I just put it on and I'm ready to go.
Okay.
Really.
Now, at the British Championships this January, you hit some pretty big numbers as a very light 63. I think 58 kilos
Yes.
thereabouts.
Yeah.
Are you thinking at all, or competing, or sorry, considering moving up to 63 at some point? What are your thoughts on that?
No, I don't think. I mean, when I started lifting, I was 54, 55 kilos,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean, I'm not saying I'm that old, but it's definitely getting harder to lose the weight
Sure.
as I get a little older. But that next jump is so huge. When you see what those 63 kilo girls are doing, look at
Right.
that, Larissa Soloviova.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that for me is such a huge jump. If I can clean up my diet, so the 58 kilos, because it's
Mm-hmm.
just after Christmas. I can't be
All
a
right. All
thin
right.
after under that after Christmas. So if
Right.
I cleaned up my diet for 2 to 3 weeks, I'd get back down.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
All
do you
right.
do much of like a water cut, or is it just purely a diet change?
Yeah, I just stopped eating chocolate.
So you're pretty
So
much at comp weight, like a week or two out. Then you're not like.
Yeah, I try to be. So the week, if the week before I'm waking up at 58 kilos, I know it's going to be tight, but I think I can do it.
Mm-hmm.
And there has been a time in Sweden, the Raw Worlds in Sweden last year, I stepped on the scales and I was like, what? And I was half a kilo over on competition day, so that was quite stressful. So I have mistimed it before, but what it all comes down to is whether I'm organized enough. So I need to start thinking about it 3 weeks before, but sometimes I'm guilty of going, I'll start it next week.
Mm-hmm.
And then I can feel, then the pressure's on.
Right.
But in some ways I quite like that because it's like, oh, is it going to happen? It just adds to it all.
Yeah.
so
So
you actually
go ahead, Ryan. Sorry.
you actually squat like 2.5 kilos under the 57 world record and actually surpassed the 57 bench world record. So, and you're basically saying like you're only just didn't diet because it was Christmas time. So, do you think that the kilo body weight made any kind of difference for you? Like, do you notice a difference in your body weight as you diet
Yeah.
that bit down?
Yeah, I do. That's the most annoying thing about the whole process is Dean and we have a theory that everybody has their perfect weight.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody kind of has a weight there. They feel good. They feel strong. I like to feel like a little white, like thicker around my stomach because I like that pushing against the belt.
Mm-hmm.
And I think my perfect weight is 58 kilos. So, and I don't know whether I've got that in my head now that, I've dropped down a kilo, so now I feel different. But I do definitely feel much stronger at 58 kilos. That's not to say I still definitely think I'm capable of doing those lifts a kilo lighter, but everything just felt right on that day. The suit was tight, and I have like an obsessive compulsive disorder with my squat suit. If I put it on in the warm-up room and it doesn't feel the same that it did 2 weeks ago, I'm like, oh my goodness, that's it. I'm not going to be able to even do my opener. So I like to really fill out my suits, and that's where the 58 kilos really works for me. So that's annoying, but I need to crack that. If I want to push on, I have to try and crack that feeling strong at a full 57 and get it out of my head that, oh, but I'm not really filling out my squat suit. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I wonder if doing something like a 1 kilo water cut and then getting back up to 58 before you get on the platform, if something like that might work or be an idea.
Yeah, I definitely would try that. I mean, the thing is that I'm so uninterested in food and nutrition and stuff. Like, if I actually worked with somebody, I probably would. And it would obviously be easier, but you know, I still am taking my mum's nutrition advice.
It's just prunes and dates, eh?
Yeah.
And I mean, Dean's probably done a lot of water cuts, so.
Oh God. Yeah. He dropped something like 8 kilos in 2 weeks before the British in January.
Oh jeez.
Oh man.
Yeah, it was insane. But yeah, no, I think a water cut would be perfect. I just need to commit to something. But that would make sense, because if I was just a little dehydrated at the time and then I was back up, in my head automatically I'd be like, oh, I'm 58 kilos. I'm going to do those lifts I did in January.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're a bit of a multi-sport athlete, right? You've kind of done a lot in the past, and even within strength sports. Ryan and I found that you did a bodybuilding show for the first time in 2019, August?
Yeah.
Does that sound about right?
Yeah, that was right. Yeah.
So
August last year.
What was that? What was that prep like? How did you find it comparing to powerlifting? And I mean, you just said you're still taking your mom's nutrition advice. Were prunes and dates like the secret to that that kind of physique? Or yeah, can you let us in a little bit on some of that experience?
So that was interesting. I've always loved, I mean, everybody, all my training partners, there's no secret that I love to do a bit of a pump at the end. I like that pump feeling.
Mm-hmm. And
I've always followed a few bodybuilders because I just think it's impressive. And I've always wondered what sort of shape I could get into. But I only actually gave myself 8 weeks. So what did I do? I started off, the training obviously changed. I was doing 10s with the squat and things like that. But it was really just for a laugh. And I cut out carbs. I cut out carbs pretty much the whole time. And I had headaches for the first 3 to 4 days. There's clearly some sort of withdrawal. And then I felt amazing. And then I think I reintroduced carbs at the end. But it was just something I've always wanted to do. And like I said before, you know, I just didn't know if I'd get the chance to do it, because I still want to have a baby maybe in the next few years or something. So I wanted to have a go at it, to see exactly what sort of shape I could get into with just 8 weeks, and just for a laugh, and just see what the process was. But it was the strangest day of my life. Everybody was like in pants in the car park doing press ups and spraying each other and oiling each other up. And you're allowed to drink. You can drink white wine. I drank white wine the night before and on the day, because it dries you out. So you can be drunk. You can do the sport, and you can just have a really good day. So awesome. I enjoyed it. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Do you remember what your body weight was when you actually were like getting on stage, sort of thing? Like, how low did you get down?
55 kilos. So not that low. I mean, if I had put more time into it, I think my upper body was quite good, but my legs and my bum, they were never going to come in, you know, with 8 weeks. And to be honest with you, although I committed to the diet, that was just hard. That was and everybody thought, because there's an ongoing joke that I don't really stick to things, but everybody thought that I might then transition into bodybuilding. But as soon as I came off the stage, I was like, this isn't powerlifting. I haven't got the same buzz. You know, it is cool what I've done, but it's not like, whoa, you know, anybody can bodybuild, I think, and not everybody can do an equipped squat or an equipped bench. Or
I don't think I can bodybuild.
Yeah, I think it would take Ryan and I more than 8 weeks.
Yeah. I don't think I have enough years left in my life for that. So.
New challenge.
So just looking at that, like from what I can see, that time between, because you did Classic Worlds in 19 and then bodybuilding show in August and then Equipped Worlds in November. So that was about a 5 to 6 month time off competition, which as far as I can tell is about as long as you ever took off competition. Did you find that having never taken such a long break, did you find that you had more stage nerves coming back onto the powerlifting scene?
Yes. So do you mean before the Dubai?
Before Dubai.
Yeah, I did. I think the whole build up to that competition was insane. I think the fact that it was in Dubai, and that's, in your head is quite a glamorous place, and it's going to be hot, and there's going to be shakes there, and all that sort of thing. And I got to the venue, and there was parrots outside, and I was like, wow, I know, this is so cool. And I think, the whole build up to that, I was hoping to do well. I didn't quite know what I was capable of. And so, I was very nervous for that one. I think that stage was quite daunting as well. I don't know what you guys think, but that whole setup, because you couldn't really see anything out the front. It was quite dark. And that whole process, and you know how big that venue was. I got lost for about an hour the first day.
Yeah.
I couldn't find anything. I couldn't find the way in. I didn't really know where to eat the night before. So the whole process of that was quite scary. And then you get there, you start warming up, and you're like, oh yeah, this is what I do.
So I think kind of staying with Dubai, since we kind of got on that topic, you had like a pretty darn amazing meet going on. You placed third in squat, silver in the bench, and then you had trouble on your deadlift. You only got your opener deadlift. Do you remember what happened on your second and third? Like, it looked to me like you're kind of stuck out front or something like that. Do you remember exactly kind of what you're feeling?
I do remember. So I've actually never watched those last two deadlifts back, because I've never watched a lift back that I've failed, because I've got quite a vivid imagination, and I don't want that in my head.
Okay.
If that makes sense. So I've never actually watched anything I've failed, which is probably where I'm going wrong, because if I watched it, I would know. But I think there's a few reasons why I didn't get the second deadlift. I think, firstly, nobody takes into account how knackered I was after the squat, and I really was feeling it, and the bench. By the time it comes to the deadlift, I really have to dig so deep physically. I think another point in it was I was too far forward. I just didn't get my chest through, and I was trying to lift from a really awkward forward position. All the cues about sitting back, weight on your heels outside of the feet weren't there. The other thing was that I simply don't think I was strong enough for that lift on the day. And the other thing was I was sorting my suits out. I don't know whether this is the situation, but I was sorting my suits out the other day, and I noticed that deadlift suit I deadlifted sumo in Dubai was a conventional suit. I just didn't read the ticket, the thing.
Oh, okay.
So we got handed our suits, and I never thought to check the inside, but it was a conventional suit, which maybe was pulling me into a slightly different position. I'm not too sure. But looking at, there's a still photo of me on that second deadlift, and I can just see I'm just forward. I'm not even trying to get my chest up, my hips down. I'm just not doing it. So that was frustrating, because it was the first time I've ever seen my name at the top coming out of the squat and bench, and all of a sudden I thought, oh my god, I've been that person that's always been just outside top 3, always just outside top 5, and I went and I looked at the board, and the South African guy, the big South African guy, the ref,
Hanny.
Yes, came round and he looked at me and he looked at the board and he went, "Wow, you're strong." And I thought, "Oh my God, yeah, maybe I am strong," because it hadn't really dawned on me that I was even capable of being at the top until that point. And then that second deadlift, and I get stuck in the same position again and again, and there's just nowhere you can go from that position if you're not, so and this has happened numerous occasions, and it gets really tough when my name literally went like this, do 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 do, like down, and then you're like, oh well, that's annoying, because I really thought I was definitely top 5. If I should have pulled 175. I've done that many times, and if I'd have done that and then pulled 180, then I really would have been up there. So I just need to work on that weakness, because it's got the better of me so many times. Yeah.
Those damn deadlift specialists.
I know. Yeah, I know, right?
So sticking with the deadlift, like watching your recent training, you're pulling like 165 kilos for a triple paused, that's pretty darn close to, like, I mean, that's what you pulled at Worlds. Have you really like redoubled your efforts on deadlift to try and really push it up, or are you just naturally that strong raw and then you have trouble with this deadlift suit sort of?
Yeah, I think it's a bit of both. I think partly I've been training at weights that have been too light. In my head, everything feels heavy on the deadlift, and I watch a video back and I'm like, that wasn't heavy at all. But it's become a bit of a thing now, and I'm like, it's the one thing I don't want to train. So that's the other issue. So as soon as lockdown happened, I thought, this is now time. I was only actually training 3 times a week, but I thought, this is now time. Oh,
it's okay. I think you just dropped something.
Just keep going.
Okay. This is now time to really work on my weaknesses. So I usually always do 2 bench chest sessions over a squat or deadlift session, but I've changed it, and I've been doing 2 deadlift sessions a week, 1 conventional, 1 sumo. And I've actually been going to weights that are heavy rather than what I believe is training weights. And then all of a sudden it seems to have worked really well. And another thing, I don't know about you guys, but you can start taking apart your deadlift so much that in the end you're like, what do I actually have to do? I'm so confused. I've heard all these different things. And if I had gone back to my deadlift 3 years ago when I didn't have all these things in my head, they were cleaner, they were more positive. So I think I've gone backwards on the deadlift until now. I think now I've pushed through. My training weights are now over 160, which is where they probably should have been a year ago. And I'm pushing forward. But the other flip side of that is I just don't like the deadlift suit. I don't know whether you guys have ever experienced this, but I get really itchy skin after the squat suit. And the deadlift suit just aggravates my legs. And actually, Bryce, something that you said, the more uncomfortable the setup on the deadlift, generally the better position you're in.
Yeah.
And I think at the end, I'm so tired. I think this really hurts. I'm just going to try and deadlift this from this really forward, awkward position, see if I get it, and I don't. Yeah.
I think it's really possible to kind of over cue yourself and over inundate yourself with corrections. And I've definitely experienced that with clients. I'm sure that both of you two have as well, where you kind of try to fix something and you get so far from things that were originally kind of natural, and you end up just kind of coming full circle. And hopefully some of that stuff kind of works itself out and you can get back to just put your hands on the bar and stand up real hard kind of idea. You know what I mean? A lot of times we overcomplicate things, and it's good to break those things down and look at the details, but by the time you get to meet day, you pretty much just have to be able to go out there and just deadlift.
I know. And the other thing is like, is with my feet, you know, I was bringing them in, I was taking them out to the plates, and I was seeing how somebody else deadlifts and thinking, oh, I want to try that. And then I gave myself a hamstring problem, I think, doing that. So yeah, you're right. Yeah, I think I just have to take it right back again.
Well, especially after so many competitions and so much experience and so much time and so much practice, like,
Yeah.
you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Dean would argue otherwise, but yeah.
So I want to jump back just for 1 second, because you said that by the time you get to deadlifting competition, you're knackered, which is British for tired.
Yeah.
And is that something you've tried to address with your meet day nutrition through the years, or do you think it's just a physical, like, because I mean, you're squatting like 4 times body weight, you're benching 3 times body weight, like it's physically a large toll, but have you found better success with different nutrition strategies?
Have you tried ditching the prunes and dates?
Well, here's the thing with the food is I so I'm the one person on the team that doesn't bring any food.
Oh, you're that person.
Yeah, you know, that one that's I sit there and I say, oh, what have you got in your bag? And they show me, I go, oh, have you got any spare? And
Can I have
then
one of those?
people, yeah, yeah. So that's what I'm, that person. So on the day of the competition, I'm usually eating something I've never even tried before. But I think, well, they're eating it and they probably have done their research, whereas I haven't. So that will work for me. I remember Kimmy Johnson once drinking a Rockstar, and I was like, I need one of those because she has one. I think I have like food envy, and then I just copy whatever the person next to me is eating. So what I probably should do is actually find what works for me and bring that with me. I should do that, but for some reason, I think I'm the person that's always at the Pilsen breakfast bar trying to find one banana, and I'll keep that banana for 3 days, and then on the day of the competition, that's what I eat. So, but yeah, you're right. I'm learning a lot from you guys. There's a lot of things I have to do now. I should address the food, and then I think as well the other issue is whatever I have, if I do have an energy drink or something, I've struggled before coming down the other side. You know, I really get affected by that. And I think, oh, it's deadlift. Now I need the most energy. Now I'll have another energy drink or something. So I do just need to, if I can get that right and get the weight before competition right, if I have a good day, I really do believe I could just push past this bit now, and then I'd be kind of top 3 territory, but I just need to get it all right.
I think in Pilsen you should have had a salami sandwich. I
believe
that's
the trick.
That's the secret. Yeah.
Oh man, that changed my life. That sandwich changed my life. Changed my weigh-in strategy, anyways.
It's the last sandwich.
Yeah, I don't know. They have them in the like Pilsen hotel lobby deli or whatever, the bar. And it was literally just a salami and pickle sandwich, and I've done my best to recreate those every time I've had to cut weight. So as soon as I weigh in, I have my salami and pickle sandwich, and something about the sodium, the fat, and yeah, man, that's just. So there you go. Maybe that's a place to start. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, if there's one place to start, I mean, we've been there enough times.
Yeah,
I was supposed to be getting married this year. I was thinking, oh, I could have that as my wedding venue because I've been there so many times. I know all the best rooms.
Right.
So.
So
that's fine.
I have another. Hi, cat. I have another Instagram deep dive that I managed to pull up, a little interesting bit of trivia. So you posted a sort of a before and after photo of yourself previously and yourself now, and the previous photo was from when you were living in the African bush.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
Can you tell us a bit about that and that time in your life and that experience?
Yeah. So when I left sixth form, Didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I've always loved animals, even though I just pushed my cat off the table. I don't know if you saw that.
Most people
I've
can't
always
see that.
no. I've always loved animals, and I thought I wanted to be a game ranger.
Oh, okay.
So I went over to Africa and I did my level 1 game ranger course, which is sort of tracking animals. It was amazing. It was probably the best 6 months of my life. And in that time, you just you get used to living without any technology, no phones, no TV, no internet. I put on quite a lot of weight in that time, but I was happy, and I've just always loved the idea of living out in the bush. And love wildlife, love the sun, so it all made sense to me. And I was offered a job out there, but it was leopard tracking, and I would have been in an office. And it wasn't quite what I wanted to do, so that's when I came back and then decided to go to university.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, it was good though, really good.
So you said, and just so everyone understands, because I don't know what it means, you said after you finished sixth form?
So from school, it's those 2 years. We do our A levels. Do you guys have A levels?
No.
Oh, so it's in between university and last year of school. Some people go to college over here. We call it college as well.
Yeah, okay.
But I call it sixth form, but it was that kind of age. So maybe 17, 18.
Right.
All right.
That kind of age.
Okay. I'll plead ignorance when I have to. Don't worry.
Okay.
So to kind of I guess wrap up that section before we get into talking some more specifics about the equipment that you use. I know that from a lot of the people that I've spoken to, and I spent a very brief period of time in the UK, equip lifting isn't huge there, hey?
No, it's not. And the equip lifters that we do have been around for years.
Mm-hmm.
And it's those equip lifters that are trying to get other equip lifters into the sport. So no, it's not as big as we'd like. I mean, the British numbers are sometimes a little bit sad, but then you go to a world championships and you see how many people are doing it all over the world. But for some reason in the UK, war lifting is huge.
Mm-hmm.
Huge,
and how do you
really big?
Do you see that starting to change over the last little while? Are you starting to see an influx of newer lifters, or is that kind of still on its way? Hopefully,
I think so. I mean, I think anybody who lifts equip will agree that there's a real community spirit with equip lifters, and in the UK it's huge. We're all on the same chats. Everybody is posting equipment to each other, secondhand equipment all over the country, because you can advertise, I need an angle sleeve, whatever, and 3 people will message you and say, I know somebody who's got that. They can post it to you.
Right.
So there's a real great spirit of equip lifting, but for some of the kit in the UK is like gold dust. Especially for the smaller women, it's really hard to get hold of.
Right.
And I think that's a huge barrier. And also, I mean, SBD is a British company.
Yeah.
And they do a lot all over the UK. And I think everybody sees SBD and raw powerlifting comes to mind.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's a shame. But and I think a lot of people not really understanding what it's about, and thinking they don't want to try it, it's cheating, all that sort of thing. So that makes me sad. But whoever I can speak to, I will try and get them to at least try a squat suit, not necessarily a bench shirt, but try and put something on. And I'm always open to helping people. Dean, where I train with Dean, we have people all over the country coming down just to put their kit on. I'm just not sure there's enough of that in the UK.
Right. So if you could use our platform for a second and give a message to anybody who's listening and maybe is in the UK and thinking about equip lifting, what would you What would you want to tell them? Where should they start? Where should they look? Who should they talk to?
I think there's a few good pages on Facebook. But honestly, I mean, anybody who's on the British team now is having some sort of guidance by Dean, and I'm very close with Dean. He's my best friend. So I think getting in contact with myself directly, or Dean, or any of our powerlifting group, I would never ever ignore a message if it's something to do with equipped powerlifting. So yeah,
Awesome.
Facebook groups, anything like that. But honestly, I even like it when people send me a video and ask me to critique it. If I'm sat at home watching TV in the evening, there's nothing I'd like more than to watch that and give some tips, because honestly, I would love equipped powerlifting to get popular again.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think we'll head into our sort of next segment. Unless, Ryan, did you have any more questions?
No, I think, yeah, let's move on to Gearhead.
Okay, cool. So we'll go into our Gearhead segment. And so we're going to ask you a couple questions about the equipment that you use and what you like about it and why, maybe. So can you tell us a bit about your preferred pieces of equipment and maybe some things that you kind of learned about finding the right piece of equipment for you over the years?
Yeah, so with my squat suit, I started off in a second-hand 28, not a Super Centurion, one down.
Just the regular Centurion?
Just the regular
Yeah.
Centurion. And that suit kept me going for years until in Orlando, I was warming up and it split up the side. And and that was really bad timing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like really bad timing.
Yeah, and I'd had that one for years, and I have it now, and I still don't want to get rid of it. But it's been stitched back up, and it could go to a better home. And now I squat in a Super Centurion. And what I like is a black suit with black stitching, because I honestly believe the stitching affects the suit, the color of the stitching.
Oh, okay. Can you tell us more about that?
Yes, I think the red stitching doesn't make the suit as springy. I think the red stitching gives the suit more give.
Okay.
Are you nodding at me like I'm crazy, or are you nodding because you have had the same experience?
I don't think I've had the same experience.
Okay.
I'm not going to say you're crazy, but I have not had the same experience.
Okay,
Not that I've noticed anyways.
Okay, so I specifically like the black with the black stitching. With the squat suit, I'm very particular about where I want it on my legs. If it goes up too high, I get a little stressed. I actually have to take it off and put it back on again. So I put the suit on lower than it should be. And then as I warm up, it kind of rides up to a certain level. After my second squat, I'm looking at my legs, panicking, thinking it's too high. But generally, I'm sure it's fine. It's just become a bit of a panic I have before I go out for my squats. For my bench shirt, I started in an F6. And I loved that shirt. And that was nice because it wasn't too tight. It was nice and stretchy, and I could still bench like 110 in it a couple of years ago. Oh no, 120 actually. And then now I'm in a angled sleeve scoop neck. I don't actually know what that is.
The low cut collar.
Yeah, low cut collar, katana, super
yeah.
katana.
Yeah.
And I've got 2 or 3 of those in the same size, 34. And again, the color is very important. So the red shirts definitely give you more.
Okay.
But annoyingly, I put my red shirt in the wash a couple of years ago, and it automatically went onto tumble dry. And I realized halfway through, and I got it out, and all of the stickers had melted.
Ooh.
And I was so upset. And I was like, that's it, that shirt's, that's gone. And then I wore that shirt when I benched 160. So it was fine. It was just an unnecessary meltdown. But I like that shirt. I like it on the elbow. That's where
Like pretty low.
test. Yeah, low on my elbow. I feel my elbows, make sure it's touching my elbow. I can always feel putting that shirt on. If it goes on twisted, I know it's not going to feel right. So I have to look at where the prints are on the arms and make sure they're in exactly the right space, sort of right space on my arm. And I also, we just jack it down each time. I don't touch any warm-ups in those shirts.
Right.
But the bench shirt is the one I feel most comfortable in. It's the one I'm never worried about on the day, because I know it will be okay. And if it's not, I think one of the biggest things about quick lifting is communicating with your coach, because if you don't tell them anything, they won't know. But I can feel if it's on at the right place, if it needs to come up the arm a bit more, if I need it pulled off my neck a bit more. So I think communication in a quick powerlifting is the most important thing. If you're not good at, explaining to somebody, then you just have to suffer in silence, really. And on a deadlift suit, I don't know what I've got. Don't care, really.
A conventional deadlift suit to sumo deadlift.
Yeah. And I've got a couple of singlets that I put on if it's going horrendously. No, I think I've got a size. So I wear 28 squat suit, but I wear 32 deadlift suit.
Okay.
Because I like it nice and loose.
That's fair.
Yeah. I'm not actually sure. A velocity. Y stance velocity. I don't know. It's blue, so I'm not sure where my color theory.
And is
goes.
that the right color or
no? It's not ideal. It's not ideal.
So
maybe
I wanted
purple. Maybe purple.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you really quick about the bench shirt, because obviously you're a big bencher. Like Ryan said, you were at or over the world record.
Over, yeah.
Over. But so when you say you jack down the shirt, are you talking mostly about pulling the collar down, or are you talking about trying to like pull the top of the sleeve down? I've seen people kind of do both.
I've seen that too.
But what's your go-to in terms of trying to like get a little bit more out of the shirt between attempts?
So the main thing is just jacking it down as much as I can, as much as Dean can, and then the belt goes on. The belt's quite tight. But apart from that, I've never fiddled. I mean, you see some people like Kevin Yeager, he's like all of his chest is out. And I've never really fiddled any more than just jacking it down, because that works.
So just kind of pulling down on the main body of the suit.
Just pulling down. Okay. Yeah, he uses his elbow to push down on the main body of the shirt. And then for me, I can sort of look down and see whether the chest panel's at the right place. And yeah, like I said, it's just the one thing that I always manage to pull out the bag, even if I could have had 2 or 3 horrendous sessions in the shirt in the gym. And on the day, it always seems to be okay. I think and it never feels as heavy in your hands on the day. I don't know whether you guys have that, but in the gym, I think my wrists are going to snap off. And then on the day, I think, wow, I didn't even really feel that. Oh. So, but yeah, just jacking the shirt down, making sure the sleeves are in the right spot, and the belt really nice and tight, really tight.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
So it sounds like you wear stock sizes. Do you do a lot of modifications to your gear, or is it just basically what it is?
It's exactly what it is. I think squat suit wise, if I went by the sizing guide, I'd be a 32, but I do get into a 28. But those first few sessions, I don't do anything in it. I just see how long I can sit or lie in the suit. And that's all we do. So I've driven, because my gym's an hour away. I've driven to the gym to lie in the suit.
I've sat at home watching TV in a suit, so I totally understand what you're saying.
My stuff is not tight enough.
No, not at all. Yeah. So yeah, I've never had anything custom, because As far, I mean, I can't remember a competition really where I haven't felt like I've progressed in some way, shape, or form. So as far as I'm concerned at the moment, if it's not broke, if it's not broke, don't try and change anything type
It doesn't
thing.
have red stitching.
Yeah,
don't
I'll
change
get
it.
it unpicked.
Maybe the red
So
stitching is
bad.
needed for deadlifts, though. Maybe you need a black suit with red stitching for deadlifts because it gives you a little more stretch,
Yeah,
gets you in a
that's a good
position
point.
better.
Could be the
I
thing.
mean, don't you joke, but I'll probably go away and try and buy this somewhere.
What's your thoughts on like gold stitching and silver stitching, though? Those are the important
Well,
colors.
Ryan likes bringing
well,
that up.
also, Ryan, it just depends on the look you're going for. Because if your earrings are pink or whatever, you can't. You have to also try to match.
Right. I've never coordinated my earrings with anything, so
I don't know if even I have. I don't have that many. I don't have that many colorful earrings though.
Yeah. So
Okay.
that's it really.
And also, you use max RPM knee wraps, which I have to imagine someone has said to you, "Hey, we can use any other pair of knee wraps. You'll get more out of them." But you stick with those, and I'm just wondering why you stick with
And
the max
probably,
RPMs.
what, 30 revolutions.
Yeah, probably.
Because they just feel so nice on my knees.
All right.
They just, I mean, when you're sat there and there's one type of knee wrap. I actually need to find out what it is. They're yellow and red, and the
Gripper.
material is so stiff. You get them in the wrist wraps, but
that's the
stiff.
gold signatures, I think.
Yeah.
Oh my god. I watched somebody be wrapped in those, and they were crying as the guy was wrapping them. And I mean, after
Definitely
I came
the gold
off that,
Yeah.
yeah, after I came off that 217 squat, all I could think about was how tight those knee wraps were. So they work for me. They feel nice. I can take that sort of pain. And although I really try not to be superstitious, and I try not to have competition day pants or anything, they've worked for me. They're the ones I did that lift in. So
just a little stitious.
yeah,
a little bit, like moderate stitious.
Yeah, they work. I like them.
Just sticking with that for a second. Sorry.
All right. Yeah.
Does Dean wraps your knees then?
He does. Yeah. So I mean, it's difficult because everybody wants Dean to wrap their knees. In Dubai, he was. I'm sure he won't mind me saying this. He was a little heavier body weight wise, and I know it was absolutely killing him to wrap. There was a few of us really close together, but I like the way he wraps because he wraps right up my thigh. I don't want it too bunched up around my knee.
Right.
I want it to go right up and then back down.
Okay.
That's when it feels best for me. So I don't wrap my own knees because I don't ever train in kit really unless I'm with him. So he always wraps my knees. But when you see there's some people and one person's holding the leg and the other person's like fanning them.
The 7-man Ukrainian wrapping team.
Yeah. Basically, yeah. It's not I don't think that would be good for me. And the other thing I get panicky about, God, I sound like I'm really high maintenance, but I'm actually not on the day. But the other thing I get panicky about is I hate it when they say bar loaded and I'm not completely ready, because for me I think that minute's going to go so quickly. So it has happened a few times where we've mistimed it. Mm-hmm. And somebody, not necessarily Dean, I mean, I would prefer him to wrap. I have been wrapped by other people. They've said bar loaded and I'm still having my knees wrapped. So not only am I stressed about timing out, then you're trying to think, you then have to switch from being stressed to actually focus on the squat. So I like to be wrapped probably one lifter early.
Yeah.
And all good to go.
I've had a few of those close calls too.
Yeah, it's horrible, isn't it?
Not my favorite, but I'm pretty confident in those scenarios at this point. And I may never load 390 on the bar ever again. Because both times it was that weight.
Oh really?
Yeah, I don't know if that's just cursed or what, but when it comes to your footwear, I know that powerlifters love to talk about shoes. Do you prefer flats or do you prefer heels for squatting?
Raw squatting, heels, equip squatting, flats.
Okay,
Yeah,
interesting. And what's
yeah.
your sort of feel between the change there? Like, what do you try to squat fairly different between the disciplines, like between raw and equipped?
Yeah, well, I didn't. I used always one technique for everything, but as time's gone on, I mean, I started my equip squatting
Mhm.
really wide, and in Converse.
Okay.
But as time's gone on, I've experimented with bringing my feet in narrow, and I felt pretty good like that. So I think I found a happy medium with my equip squat where it's somewhere in the middle.
Okay.
But I've also had a sort of play around with my raw squat, and I tried the heels, and I like the heels because I definitely feel like the squat's way more in my quads,
Hmm.
and that feels powerful for me. But the equip squat is not in my quads at all. It's all glutes and hamstrings, and I'm really trying to sit back, and I'm really trying to hold that position, nice and wide knees and everything at the bottom of the squat, my equip squat. Um, but I mean, I'm now all of a sudden that wide stance raw is catching up with the narrow stance raw.
Okay.
So they're catching up. So that's really positive for me because if that wide stance raw catches up with what I was doing slightly narrower, then in my head, my equip squat is probably, I'm in a stronger
Hmm.
position to push that way up as well.
Definitely.
So
Yeah.
yeah. But I wear the Sabo deadlift shoes to squat because they're really nice and flat and I can feel exactly where the weight is on my feet.
Right on. Yeah.
And I like that.
Yeah. Awesome. Our next little segment here, unless Ryan, you had any more questions there?
No, I think that's good.
No? Okay. So our next segment are questions from listeners. And also I have to give you an extra special thank you for making a post on your Instagram because I got a number more questions after you posted about that. So
Oh,
thank you
yeah.
for being, again, just such a great podcast guest, studying and revising, being ready, making posts to help with gathering questions. Very, very helpful. Thank you. So the first one that we got was people are interested to know how you've sort of adapted to the whole COVID-19 situation in terms of adapting your training. Have you had to change much because of lockdown, shelter in place kind of things, or what does that look like for you over the last, what is it now, 2-3 months almost?
Yeah. I mean, I was quite lucky. The weekend before lockdown happened, my friend lent us his van and we went and picked up a squat rack from the gym. So I've got about 190 kilos of weight
Hmm.
and the rack. And I have that. My mum's got a barn, so I've put it all in this barn. Um, so I've been going there. And the training's been really good because I'm not under any time restraints at all.
Hmm.
I've still been working throughout the whole lockdown. So because where I work, we haven't been able to close. So I've still been working, but just it sounds bad, but as when everybody sort of stopped doing anything, I just felt like my phone wasn't ringing. I wasn't checking my emails because nobody was doing anything, and
Hmm.
I felt like I was in a really good position to train for 3 to 4 hours
Yeah.
and just push and push and push. And I think the biggest issue for me is because my life is quite hectic. I've always got something after training because I'm trying to fit everything in. I still want
Yeah.
to have a normal life and I still want to go out for dinner and things. So for me, not having anything planned afterwards meant that I finished every single session and I did a bit more.
Hmm.
And that worked really well for me. Obviously, annoyingly, I didn't have any. We've made a sort of cable machine with a pulley system,
Right.
but it's not quite the same. So some
Right.
of the assistance exercises had to change.
Your pumps
Um,
have been lacking.
basically I've just, I've just had absolutely no pump. I've not even had a mirror to flex in.
Oh man. Okay. So now
So
we're getting to the real issues
Hardships,
here.
the hardships.
so I've just had to hope that I've kept the pump, really. But no, so it was really good because I was just training and I could put everything into it and not
Mhm.
think, oh God, I have to text that person, but oh my God, I never replied to that, or I never paid that bill, or that type of thing. I was
Right.
just 100% into the session.
Yeah.
And you have to be creative. I mean, I've not had a program from Dean, partly because I haven't asked for one, and partly because he's been so busy with what he's been doing. He works for the NHS, so the National Health Service here. So
Mhm.
I didn't really want to be bothering him. So I've been programming myself,
Uh-huh.
which works. I try to add something in each session that I don't like, because I think the key is to obviously try and get better at the things you don't like. So I've been
Right.
trying to do lots of conventional deadlifts, lots of conventional banded deadlifts,
Yeah.
things like things like that.
Like what kinds
So
of things would my coach program for me that I would never program for myself?
basically,
Very mature outlet.
yeah. So that's what I've been doing, and it's just worked really well. I've just loved it, actually. And then, all of a sudden restrictions are being lifted, and then you just feel like you're creeping back into those habits of taking on too much work, because I do personal training alongside my job. It's a constant issue I'm having with wanting to take on more clients, but it's actually hindering the amount of time I have to train. So I need to make better decisions. I need to get better at saying no and saying, actually, because I always think my session is going to take 2 hours. If I train with other people, it takes 4 because I talk so much.
All right.
So, so yeah.
Okay.
But
Cool.
it's working. I've liked it, and it's actually made me. I've now taken a couple of steps. I'm going to buy my own kit, so that if the gym's open and there are still restrictions, I can still train, without being too hindered.
Right.
Yeah.
So the next question we have is, how do you deal with the mental and emotional challenges of missing out on comps that you've trained hard for?
So that was actually tough. I'm generally a positive person. But this year, so I was supposed to be getting married this week in
Oh, wow.
Spain.
Yeah.
And that got cancelled. So firstly, the Europeans got cancelled, and that was the 1 year that, if I had done what I did in January, I mean, I could be wrong, but I think I would have had a really good chance of winning. And I've come second, like, I want to say 3 times now, which is really annoying. So they cancelled that, and then they cancelled the World Bench in Pilsen. And I think I was in denial. I think even when it started to get serious, I thought, well, they're not going to cancel that because it's the World Bench. So, that's quite a big deal. And then it was obviously getting apparent that everything was being cancelled, and then I had to cancel my wedding, and now there's talk of British powerlifting not sending a team away to Norway if it does go ahead. So I found that really tough. And if I can honestly say, if I didn't have access to that kit, I'm not sure I'd have kept up the momentum, because you're seeing everybody you're competing against training. And I think for me, it would have just been, it would have been really, really hard for me to get back into it. So I'm so pleased I've had that stuff. But generally, yeah, it's been tougher than I thought. I was really upset about it one day. My mum said, "Oh, you seem more upset about your competitions being cancelled than the weddings being cancelled." And I said, "Well, yeah, I am, because you can get married at any time, but there's only so long that you're physically in this kind of like condition." So I was really gutted by that. But I've got a really close friend, Helen, who I who I train with, and she doesn't take any crap from me at all. Even if I say, "Oh, Helen, my shoulder's a bit sore," she's like, "Shut up, carry on." So I phoned her, and she said, "Ellie, we've just got more time to train. You're always complaining that you haven't had enough time to really prepare, usually because I do like a bodybuilding show or something, but you're always saying that you haven't had a clear run, but now you do. So use the time." And actually, all of a sudden, it put everything into perspective. There's nothing I can do about it. So I really should just use this time to just get stronger and work on the weaknesses. So yeah, initially I was gutted, but now I've done a U-turn in my brain, and I'm thinking, no, I think this is good. This is the time that I need to squat 230.
Yes. All right.
That's the plan.
Yeah, I mean, like, as somebody who, like we covered earlier, you compete like 6 to 8 times a year. Like, you seem to have a pretty good grasp of, like, okay, this is a finite thing. So having that roadblock to those competitions that seem to be really, big, mentally and emotionally, like, I can see how that would be a bit of a struggle to try to navigate. But it sounds like you kind of have gained some good perspective, and hopefully that's feeling a lot better.
Yeah, I think so. And then, the other thing that comes with like a female of my age is when to try for a baby, because it only dawned on me a couple of weeks ago that if I do decide to have a baby, that's a long time off powerlifting.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not very fair because men don't have that. So it kind of and then I thought to myself, I really need to give this powerlifting the best shot I have. I feel like I still think I'm 60%, no, 80% of where I could be. So I have to keep going till I've really got what I want from it.
Yeah, I get that. Ryan,
So the next question we had was, have you ever had any accidents while lifting? And I'll presume this doesn't have anything to do with prunes and dates.
Oh dear. Yes, I have. I had a really bad accident. I was in the gym with Aaron in Birmingham, and I had a banded setup. So the bands were hooked up over the rack, pulled down to go underneath the deadlift bar.
Yeah.
Is that a reverse band?
Reverse band, yeah.
And I had a bit of a moment, and I leant over the bar and offloaded all the weight on one side,
Oof.
forgetting the band tension, and the bar came up and hit me straight in the bottom of the chin, and I thought I'd lost my teeth initially, so I ran over to the mirror to see if I still had my teeth, and I did. But it was just horrendous because my coach, he saw it in like slow, like it was kind of slow-mo, and he was telling me like, stop, stop doing that. But I was on a bit of a mission, kicked all the plates off really quick, and that was a shock. And I have fainted deadlifting once. Yeah.
Did anybody catch you, or did
No.
you like prevent you from hitting your head on something or anything like that?
No, I fell forwards.
Oh, okay.
So that's painful because your shins obviously hit the bar. And then I had I think it was lack of oxygen to the brain. I had sort of a small convulsion. And then in the gym that I was training at, it was a high performance center, there was a 1 minute delay video, so you could watch everything you've done back a minute after. So everybody ran over to the screen and watched it again.
You're still lying there, but they're like, "Oh, we're gonna get in line. We're gonna get a good spot to see the instant replay here."
Yeah, basically.
That reminds me of
that,
at our junior worlds, Billy Bueller, a Canadian lifter, 120, I think or 105 maybe. He fainted over the bar, straight over, down, hard, out. It was pretty like you're not really sure like what's like is something serious here? Like yeah, it was pretty scary.
Do you remember that was it the Worlds in Pilsen? Let me look at my sheet in 2017. Do you remember that guy, the American guy who fainted?
Mm-hmm.
I think his knee wraps had been on too long.
Oh yes. Who was that?
Greg? Was it Greg?
Yeah,
Johnson?
I think it was Greg Johnson. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they just put the IPF banner.
They pulled the
him.
banner out. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I mean that was horrendous. But me and my buddy Jack, we just kept imagining like a little angel like flying out because it was like
up
it was
behind the curtain.
Yeah, it was horrendous. But yeah, there's always something. That was the same competition where that Ukrainian squat suit split.
Right. Yeah. And I think Eikeland passed out that meet too.
At least once. Yeah.
And I remember in the same audience, all those super heavyweights, nobody getting a squat in. Do you remember?
I do remember. Yeah, I was one of them.
oh.
I got my third though. So.
But do you just remember the board was just red?
Uh-huh.
Oh, that was
I recall that. Yeah, it's
Speaking
familiar.
of recurring nightmares.
Sorry.
There was also 2017 Nationals. I don't know if you remember this, Ryan, but Mike McDonald passed out at the top of his deadlift.
2016 Nationals in Regina.
Was it 2016?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm getting mixed up, but he passed out at the top of his deadlift, got the down command, unconscious as he set the bar down, but kept his hands on it till it hit the floor and then went over it and got white lights and carried off the platform.
Yeah, and his coach put in his next attempt before he came out to help him. 40 kilo jump. Yeah, he was out pretty hard. He was out pretty hard.
Yeah. So the next sort of listener question we got here was, what has been your biggest obstacle as a female powerlifter?
My biggest obstacle. I don't know if I've had. I mean, I'm not just saying this because I'm trying to promote equipped lifting, but I can't think of anything really obvious that's been an obstacle for me. I mean, there's been a couple of times when I've wondered whether I had a bad experience at the Arnold's.
Okay.
Let me look at my sheet. 2017.
Okay.
Where I bombed, and you kind of come back from that, and that was quite emotional, and I guess that's an obstacle in some ways, but generally I can't actually think of anything that's really been. I honestly can't think of anything negative actually from what I've been doing. If I'm completely honest, I mean I'll still carry on thinking about it. If I think of something, I'll let you know.
Sure.
So I think you might have referred to this a little bit earlier, but do you have any competition rituals or lucky items? I.e. lucky pants.
Somebody specifically mentioned lucky pants in the question.
Rituals. Apart from there always being something that I'm underprepared for. I mean, the morning of, the one thing I do bring with me is my breakfast cereal, Alpen. It's just like a nice sugary cereal that I like. I'll always have a cup of tea because that's what I do every day of my life. I wake up and have a cup of tea. So wherever I go, I'll have a cup of tea. But other than that, any competition day rituals? No. The night before I go through all my lifts in my head, I use visualization a lot. All the way to the venue, I'll be going through every lift, visualizing it. Other than that, no, not loads. I try not to have music. I try not to have headphones or anything, just in case I forget it one time and then I think I'm thrown off. So I my setups are not specific. I mean, there probably are things that I do, but nothing that obvious that I think if I don't do it, it won't work. So no, not really. I try and stay away from things like that just in case it doesn't happen or it gets thrown off, and then I've got another excuse as to why it didn't go my way that day.
Right. So you almost
Yeah.
actively try to avoid those kinds of things.
Definitely, yeah, definitely. Because
As opposed, sorry, I was gonna say, as opposed to people who try to set up those excuses preemptively, right? Like, oh, they didn't have orange Gatorade for me, so that was it. It's game over.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's just another thing that could go wrong. So best case scenario is as I don't do any of that. I mean, even when I lift, I'm quite chatty. I'm always trying to talk to the person next to me, even if they don't want to. And for me, what works is the really relaxed. Everybody's having a good time. And actually, even if I haven't done something very well, I get over it. Dean, there's no pressure on me to really we're all just there. It's a hobby at the end of the day. I'm not getting paid for it, so it just has to be a completely positive experience. Otherwise, I wouldn't do it.
Yeah, I think that's really big. And the last question we got from our listeners was, which makes you more nervous? A, setting up under 160 kilo bench, or B, watching your own lifters compete?
Oh yeah. Oh God, watching my own lifters. Yeah, it's terrifying. It's so scary. I go through all their emotions, and I think because I would probably suggest that more work goes into them than 160 kilo bench.
That's fair. Yeah.
So and I'm obviously in control of that, but I don't know how the nerves have affected them. I can only ever try and say things to calm them down, but it's not natural for everybody to be relaxed when they compete, and I'm so nervous. But the most terrifying thing, Ryan, I don't know whether you get this, but Chris, my partner, he's done a couple of bench press competitions, and I feel physically sick. I get so nervous.
Yeah, no, it's terrible. Coaching other people in the first place is terrible. It's just so nerve-wracking, but coaching your partner is just a whole other level, right?
Yeah, especially if they don't have a good day.
Oh yeah, it's
100%.
It's so hard to, like, because I used to, if I'm lifting, I'm in control, and when I'm not lifting, it's like I have little controls of little things, right? Like, here I can give her, here's this food you should eat right now, and here's water, drink this, but beyond that, like, I don't have a lot besides helping pick attempts. But yeah, it's definitely hard.
Yeah,
but
more
then
exhausting.
You've helped pick that attempt, and there's so much riding on it, and you feel 100% completely responsible for whether or not the person, your partner, makes that attempt, because you had some say in picking the attempt.
Oh yeah,
or all of the say in some cases.
I hate being a single coach. I always love having a second person to bounce ideas off of, because not very often do I talk to Ray about attempts. Like, it's mostly she's on her own. But like, there's times where I'll be in Dubai, and I'm like texting her brother, like,
right,
is this the right, like, what do you think of this? What, like, because he's had more time even to look at score sheets, so like, or watch other lifters, whereas lots of times I can't see other lifters. So yeah.
Well, if you're wrapping knees and stuff, like, that's a whole other ball game. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. So we're going to dive into some common questions that we kind of finish off each episode with. We ask these to everyone. And the first one is, what is the highlight of your lifting career so far?
The highlight is probably doing that 217 squat in Dubai. And I mean, it was a weight that back when I did my first ever worlds in 2014. It's a weight that I never ever thought that I could even have on my shoulders. So walking away from that, doing it well, and just I mean, Aaron and Dean both coach me together sometimes, and I want to do it for them much more than I want to do it for myself, because I know how much they've put into it. So turning around, seeing them, and neither of them are the most like open people. They sort of give me a thumbs up, and I think, oh, I've made them proud. That for me was probably the highlight, because it was just a weight I never ever thought I'd do, and I did. Definitely that.
Awesome.
I want to take a second.
230's next, right?
Yeah.
I want to take a second. I really, especially if you're watching this, but I really wish all of our guests had a cheat sheet, because every time she goes to answer questions, she looks over at her cheat sheet, and it's just awesome.
2014.
I'm just prepared. Be prepared.
It's great.
Do your revisions.
Yeah.
So to counterpoint that, what would be one of your lowest points of your lifting career so far? And further to that, what might you have learned from that experience?
2017, the first and only time I've ever bombed at the Arnold in Ohio, and I bombed on the deadlift. I did a British record squat at the time, a British record bench press, and I went out, tried to pull my first deadlift, and I couldn't lock it out. Same thing, forward, leaning forward. Second one, I lost my grip. Third one, there was only 6 of us, I think, in the round. Third attempt, I tried to get the suit off, and I didn't get it off in time, and they called bar loaded, and I couldn't get it over my legs because it just wasn't coming off. So I timed out. So I was going to take the suit off and pull raw, because I knew I could pull that weight raw. So that was gutting, and I was really upset. Because we'd flown all that way. My mum comes with me to everything, and she was in the audience, and just the crowd at the Arnold's is unbelievable, and you're on such a big stage, and to lose it on the deadlift, which is you like to think that you shouldn't bomb out on the deadlift. There's probably less to go wrong, I think. So I was pretty gutted by that. And then I remember wheeling, because it was really dark behind the screen at the Arnold's. It was quite a small warm-up room. There wasn't much space. It was dark. I remember wheeling my suitcase over to a little corner, and then still trying to get my deadlift suit off on my own, until this really friendly American man I'd never seen before said, "Do you want a hand?" I was like, "Yes, please." So he had to this guy I'd never seen before was trying to get me out of my suit. And then walking round, and then my mum just said, "Are you okay?" And then I wasn't. I was until then, and then I wasn't, because it just felt like so much money, time, effort had been wasted. And what was the second part of the question? What would I?
Did you learn anything from that experience?
Clearly not, because we're still having the same issues. I think. Oh yeah, I did learn something from that, actually. It was the first time ever I'd sort of tried to do a bit of a build up for social media. I thought, let's see if I can get people on board with this journey. And that made it even harder when I did bomb. I built it up more than I normally would have, and then so to people follow my prep, for me to then not deliver felt rubbish, to then have to do the post to say, unfortunately I didn't get a deadlift. And although everybody's so nice about it, they're so nice, and in some ways I'm sure it makes you more relatable as a lifter, because they're like, but it just felt, it was just awful, and I just felt like I'd let everybody down. And it doesn't help, but the Arnold's is like sometimes money involved, and you just think it was just gutting, really. But I don't know, like everything, like I don't dwell on it. You just move on. You just it's just one of those things. I just don't want to be in that situation again, really.
That's fair.
Yeah. And the next Arnold's, I fell over when I deadlifted. I got to the top, and I could feel myself tipping, and there's nothing you can do. at the
Yeah.
top, falling
Yeah.
backwards in a deadlift. So it was just like again, slow-mo.
Just wait for the down command and hope for the best.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah.
So for you, who have been some of your biggest inspirations? And it doesn't need to be powerlifters per se, but obviously you've been competitive, you've been an athlete a long time. There's probably a bunch of different things that have kind of inspired you. Can you think of some of those main influences or those main sort of inspirations along the way?
Yeah, I think there's been a few people, like with every sport I've done, I've always I've been lucky enough to have a coach that I've worked well with. I mean, I know I take instruction well, so I don't argue with anybody that has ever coached me or trained me. As far as I'm concerned, they're my coach. They know best.
Mhm.
So I've always been good at that, which has meant I've built some really good relationships with anybody that's coached me, whether it was judo, powerlifting, my first ever personal trainer, when you're just getting into the gym. I mean, they're the people that have obviously all contributed to the mindset I have now, which I'm really grateful for.
Mhm.
In terms of powerlifters, there's a few. There's a little the 52 from Ecuador, Vilma, or
Vilma Ochoa. Yeah.
yeah, with the ridiculous squat. I like.
Mm-hmm.
I like the way she conducts herself. Um, there's another Norwegian powerlifter, Eileen, 63. Again, you just see some lifters and you don't even know them, but you know you'd sort of get on well with them, and you just like the way just they're just respectful on the platform.
Mhm.
There's no throwing of anything, or I like that. I personally I like the people that fail and get up, and it's not, they kind of brush it off. Yeah, there's lots of powerlifters I look up to. I like Ankie, the girl from the Netherlands.
Anki Timmers. Yeah.
Yeah, she's nice. And I respect all of them as powerlifters. But my biggest inspirations probably would have to be Dean, because he's been in the game for so many years.
Mhm.
He's still, he's had. I was with him actually when he really hurt his knee. We were messing around on this wall in Denmark, and he fell off it, and he really busted his knee, and then he had to have surgery on that, and then he had to have surgery on his shoulder. There's all these things he's done, and he always comes back to the sport. And
Right.
he is just, he's there. He's the last one there, clearing up, tidying up from a divisional competition.
Right.
He's the one that's there in the morning, setting up the TV screens, all those things that nobody else wants to do. Well, him and the guys, the other powerlifters that I train with, Jack, Dave, Kira, Jordan, they all do the same job, but he's just always the one that's there till the end, and he's always in the gym the last, till 10 o'clock at night with somebody who might only be squatting 50 kilos, but he's there and he's pushing them on, and he's replying to messages. So yeah, I've never known anybody that's devoted their whole life to a sport like he has. So
Yeah.
I like that. I really respect that.
Yeah. There's obviously a lot of respect to be had for that kind of longevity in the sport, not only as an athlete, but in the amount of giving back somebody does. I think that's really,
Definitely.
really telling for sure.
Yeah, 100%.
So the next question we would have is, what's one piece of advice you wish you could give yourself when you were just starting out?
Just probably to believe a bit more, just we've got this thing that if Dean says I can do it, that means that I can do it. Like, it's a bit of a joke, but if he said to me, you're going to squat 217 right the day before Dubai, and I was like, you, my friend, are crazy. And then I did it. So he's always him and Aaron have always had a bit more belief in me than I did, and it's just keep just probably to do what I've done, just keep plugging away at it. Don't get thrown off. Still enjoying. I've still gone on lots of holidays. I went to Ibiza the weekend before the Western European Cup. I lifted well. There was no pressure on me. I enjoyed it. So just to keep keep that mindset really, but most of all to believe that I could do it because it hard work pays off really.
I think that's a good thing for a coach to be able to. I say this to some people sometimes that I'm not going to put a weight on the bar that I don't think you can do.
That's exactly what he says.
I'm 100% setting you up for success.
Yeah.
And so you need to believe that I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's always what I think. I think he wouldn't put this weight on the bar if he didn't 100% believe I could do it. So that's comforting.
Unless it's that third deadlift stretch, you're like, you're going for it. Let's go for a 17 kilo jump and just see what happens.
Yeah. Sometimes that's necessary though, isn't it? If it comes to the end and you put it on the bar, you have to put it on the bar.
Yeah.
So
that trust, I think, is something that takes a lot of time to build, but it builds so much buy-in, and then I think kind of feeds back into what you're talking about there, where because you believe in him, you now believe in yourself because he believes in you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know exactly.
Interesting dynamic.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to research that.
Yeah. Yeah. What's one raw lifter you'd love to see get into equipment? Do you have anybody that comes to mind?
Yeah, well, technically I don't want her to because she'd beat me, but but I mean, probably. Well, when I'm done, when I'm retired, I would like Bobby Butters, the other British 57 kilo lifter. She squats 170 raw, maybe more with ease. So, yeah, I mean, she would be pretty incredible. But you know what? She's good at the raw stuff. So let's just keep her there for a little bit. But she would, she'd be great to see in kit. So, but hopefully she doesn't listen to this.
I hope she's listening.
And our last goal, or our last question would be, do you have any concrete goals that you're kind of working for right now?
Yes. So, I would like to say, I mean, I would love to squat 230. I think that would just be, I mean, when I think of what the 222 felt like, I could do it. I'd like to bench 165 maybe. That would be pretty cool. And I just love to get my third deadlift, because if I did that as a subtotal, if I just got my third deadlift, I'd be right up there. So, I mean, I'll say it. I do want to win. I do want to win a world championship. So I do want to do that. And I don't mind if it's next year, 2 years time, 3 years time, or if I have a baby, I've decided I will definitely come back into the sport, because so many people have done it, and that's quite inspiring in itself. So I do really, really want to do it. And also, I asked my mum once, if I win the Worlds, would she hire a nightclub for me to have a party? She said yes. So I always thought that would be cool. You guys can come if you want to.
Perfect. Sure. As long as there's bowls of prunes and dates strewn about the nightclub for everybody to enjoy.
Prune juice
catering, and good.
Some prune juice cocktails and
vodka and prune juice,
just normal stuff.
Yeah. Oh dear. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, well, I mean, that's pretty much what we've got, but I know we kind of talked briefly about if anybody is interested in the UK and getting into equipped lifting, where can they find you, reach out to you for personal training or advice, or just to kind of follow along with your journey?
Facebook, I'm just Ellie Steel. My Instagram is Ellie frickin' Steel.
Which I love, by the way. I love
it. And I will gladly answer any questions. I've got my own powerlifters. They would probably like it if they had a shout out. So it's Helen, Yvonne, Denise, Mandy, Ying, and Leah. They're all part of my little crew. And yeah, I mean, anybody like Steel Powerlifting, we call ourselves. If anybody wants to be a part of it, or even they just want a critique on one video, just get in touch with me. I will always 100%. I promise I'll reply.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thank you very much for agreeing to spend part of your evening there.
Yeah, it's evening.
With us?
Yeah.
And for bringing your beautiful cats on the show.
Yeah, Holly's falling asleep. But yeah, no, thank you very much for having me. I was really honored to be asked, and I'm just really happy that I can hopefully, even if I motivate one person,
Yeah, I think,
great.
and that's a big part of why we want to do this, right? Is try to make equipped lifting more accessible and understandable and that kind of stuff. So, thanks for sharing your success and your wisdom and all that kind of stuff with us today. It's been great.
Yeah, really good. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
All right. We want to thank you for listening to the Equipped, Bruised, and Tired podcast. We're going to be available on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, wherever fine podcasts are found. So make sure to leave your 5-star rating if you enjoyed the show and a review as well, and or check out our video version of the show on our YouTube channel. If you have any questions for ourselves, guest suggestions, or questions for our guests, you can go ahead and contact us at equippedbruisedtired@gmail.com and make sure to do your part to spread the word of the equipped renaissance. We'll see you next time.